This is the photo that's angered internet users across the country. The image shows an extravagant banquet in the southern metropolis of Guangzhou, where untouched food has been tossed into the garbage. Next to it, in stark contrast, is the image of a 70-year-old farmer from the poverty-stricken northwest Gansu province. Below the photograph, it tells the old man's story. He can only afford to eat meat 10 times a year. For the beneficiaries of China's rise, quality food has become abundant. Whether at official dinners held at high-end hotels or family get-togethers, food wastage has become widespread.
We see a large amount of wasted food every day. Around 8 bins weighing 40 kilograms are filled with uneaten food every day. In most cases, just half of the food on tables is eaten, and the rest ends up in the trash.
We paid a visit to a high-end restaurant in Hangzhou's Westlake area. By 6 p.m, the restaurant was filled with diners. Many of the patrons were enjoying family gatherings. Whereas it's commonplace for diners to request doggy bags for their leftovers, very few of these diners asked to take away their uneaten food. In fact, in the 3 hours that we observed diners, only one family asked for a takeaway. Dinners being held in the private rooms of the restaurant finished at around 9:30 p.m. The groups had ordered several cases of wine, with only a few consumed. The leftover wine was taken home, but when it came to the leftover food, it was a different story. The restaurant manager informed us that the cost to hire the private room is around 8,000 yuan, which is just over $1,200. They also told us that all leftover food is simply thrown out.
People having get-togethers at my restaurant tend to drink a lot of alcohol, especially during this period when the Chinese New Year is coming. So they end up leaving much food on the table.
Next, we went to a wedding banquet in a hotel in Jinan, where the newlyweds hosted a reception with more than a dozen tables, each with a broad assortment of dishes. The food alone would cost around 20,000 yuan. Family and friends gathered, toasting and talking. But when it was over, almost half the delicacies were left on plates. Statistics show that China wastes 50 million tons of grain annually, accounting for 1/10 of the country's grain output. It's also estimated that enough food to feed 200 million people, about 1/6 of the country's population, goes to waste annually. But what's led to this egregious situation?
When I was a teenager, it was a luxury dinner to have meat cooked with cabbage once a month. But now, just over 20 years later, with the rapid development of China's economy and people's living conditions, we have enough grain and meat to sustain ourselves. In this context, some of us go to extravagance and luxury, and we ignore the problem of food waste.
Today, China is not only producing enough food for itself, but is also one of the world's biggest food exporters. But many young people have no sense of being hungry or any concept of starvation.
In Chinese traditional culture, people feel ashamed if they take home leftovers after business dinner or a formal occasion. They don't want to be loved by others. That leads to the problem of extravagance.
Many experts believe that the eating customs and practices in China make it hard to take away leftovers from banquets.
Unlike the West, where everyone has their own plate of food, in China the dishes are placed on the table and everyone shares. After dinner, main dishes are mixed with saliva and white wine, so it's inappropriate to take them home.
The situation has drawn the attention of Communist Party leadership. Earlier this year, Xi Jinping, the party's top leader, pointed out that government at various levels should attach great importance to the problem and implement practical measures to put an end to waste. At some restaurants and hotels in cities like Beijing, Shanghai and Guangzhou, a campaign named Clean Your Plates has won increasing support from bosses and customers, and thousands of restaurants have agreed to reduce portions and offer discounts to customers who finish all their food.
All the dishes with the red sign are half-portion ones, which were reduced to a quarter of the original price. The dishes are fit for some adults and children who have smaller appetites.
Coinciding with the ongoing meetings of the National People's Congress and the Chinese Political Consultative Conference, China's top two legislators in each province and city, local governments have implemented new waste-eliminating measures.
This year's dining standard for each delegate is a buffet instead of a banquet dinner. You know, there are thousands of delegates taking part in the meetings, so it will save lots of food.
The wave of food saving has cooled down business in some hotels, especially that of official banquets. Statistics from the Shanghai Restaurant and Catering Association shows that the sum of official banquets in the city in recent days has dropped by 1% year on year. With the Spring Festival approaching, the unofficial campaign has become a hot topic online. Also, some web users pointed out that in curbing waste on dining tables, the priority should be put on restricting government spending on receptions.